Morning, everyone. Welcome to Well Now. My name is Angie, and this show is about all things health and wellness, hope, and really embracing all sorts of avenues of health, wellness, hope in every dimension from all parts of the globe, so we can embrace experience, knowledge, and understanding of all sorts of things on our planet, so we can move forward with our own tools. So that's part of what I do here is share the messages from messengers around the world. So you're able to take gems of wisdom from them all and use them how you wish to use. Today we have an LA-based author, Chris Cirak, and his professional bio is quite extensive. He's spearheaded empathy-based experience design in education and corporate environments. I have to read this because there's a lot of it, Chris, for over 20 years. He's worked with over 20 Fortune 500 companies and launched 17 startups. Chris lectures on user experience and design thinking, which is a methodology based on empathy, listening, mindfulness, and human values. His teachings focus on living a life of joy and self-realization. Whoa, that's heaps. So what I'd like to do is welcome the author of Be You, A Guide to Self-Realization, Chris Cirak. Thank you for joining me, Chris.
Oh, thank you, Angie. It's a pleasure.
Wow, you have been quite busy in your life by the looks of things with your professional bio. My goodness, and empathy-based. I have to ask you before we get started on your book and everything. Empathy-based experience and design. What is that?
What is that? Yes, indeed. So really, the traditional top-down model that's been in place for the last 100 or so years, most companies are based on that, meaning that mind at the top and ideas passed down, and things are executed based on that. So as of the early 2000s, design thinking and UX design became a thing that takes a different approach, the bottom-up approach, which is need-based. So doing a discovery phase and actually looking for the unmet need, as opposed to just top-down in building something, developing something, and hoping it sticks. So it's a very different approach to product development. It was my career was really before authoring. It had those values that I now write and talk about, but more towards the educational and the corporate environments.
Wow. Okay. So top down. All right. Yeah. Beautiful. So for those listening, the top down is really from thoughts, ideas that come from the mind and working through those, and empathy based, and what you're calling the empathy based design in education corporate is bottom up. Yep.
Correct.
Which is from the experience sort of point of view and working through that way.
It's absolutely correct. So you're not assuming that you have all the answers. You're not the origin of inspiration, so to speak, but you let observation and curiosity inspire you, and from there develop.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so observation and curiosity. So it's inspiration. Yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting, because it also sounds like it's very heart-based as well, because it's an inspiration, and for me that's like working with God or universe and working from an inspired point of view instead of going from the head and going, okay, I need to do this, which is helpful obviously with planning and moving forward in this life. But to create something from a heart space or from the bottom up is really quite powerful and authentic.
Absolutely. And one would think that, that's the way to do it to begin with.
Yeah.
There was a time and place for engineers to invent things, and that was all, good and fine. But really it's developing, like you said, from the heart space, and not just products and services out in the world, but for your own life as well. Is where are you living from?
Okay.
To develop that feeling of what's right, and what's authentic to you, and hence the message of Be You is really at the heart of living a joyful life.
Yeah, cool. So I'm going to assume then Be You, Your Guide to Self-Realization, the book that you have written and is available now, was heart-centered, came from inspiration. Yes, yes.
Yes is the word. Yeah, no doubt. As much as I've been, exposed in teaching and doing workshops around more heart-based design, it was my own kind of shift really into the heart-centric space that prompted writing this book and making that more of a central theme, not just within work environments, but really as a life guide.
So obviously there was something that shifted you into this space to create this book, and it usually does take us all a shift to move into a new space. And I mean, who is Chris? Where did that journey? What did that journey look like for you to come to this place that you're at now with this book?
Sure. Um, well, I've always had a feeling that there must be more, and that was something that it took a long time to make sense of. Early on, I was confused around finding my place in the world, both culturally. I had parents from both were displaced from their native countries, and never really found another home. So growing up in that kind of homelessness was one of my earlier challenges in life, and then later as well, um, the the need to find my place even in the working world. It was difficult because I just wanted more than that what was cut out for me that I could find at least. And so just to become comfortable with who you are and realize that you don't have a choice ultimately to not be you. And that in my case meant forging my own path through building businesses, as you read earlier, highly entrepreneurial, launched many companies, and that was always just this burning desire to create. And no better way to create than to be in charge of your own powers and your own time. So it took some time to establish all that, of course. It's not just handed over to you, but few things in life are. So everyone has to go for it and cut out their piece of the pie.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being you or being you means different, is very different to each of us, obviously, because we are all different with creating and yeah, being inspired in different ways, which is the beauty of the humans on our planet, is that we're all so unique and so different, and it brings such yeah, such variety and contrast to our world, which is all about acceptance, really, about how each of us are. So I suppose, because I haven't read the book, I haven't been able to access it, only because of COVID and everything, and things have been taking a really long time to get here from the States. So I thought we'd just have a chat, because we can definitely chat about this once I've got the book. But I think it's really important to, yeah, just to let's chat about a little bit about your book. I know there are certain, you call them the principles of self-realization. So because we're all so unique and different, these principles can apply to all of us, or to the steps to self-realization.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really is the point, is that there's this amazing world out there that is completely diverse and abundant and non-judgmental, and allows everyone to be and wants everyone to be who they are, and who they are designed to be. So there's a certain blueprint to us that we're responding to when we have this inner voice that tells us who we are, and it's always there, that voice. It's whispering. It's any situation we encounter, any decision we need to make, that sense of self, that deeper self, is always there. And now, whether we listen to it or not is a second question. But ultimately, there's something there that we're always living towards, and that we're looking for in our environment and everything we do.
And it's kind of natural, isn't it, for a lot of us, for most of us, I'd say, to question our way of being, or there is the question, there has got to be more. I think it must come up in everyone's, I know it obviously in mine and yours, but there must be a point within everyone's life that there must be more question that comes up.
Yes. Well, most certainly, and a lot of that is just conditioning. So we've been conditioned to, often by well-meaning individuals, our caregivers, and our environment, our peers, to be a certain way, to want to achieve certain things so that we have, you know, prosperity or stability and whatnot. But these are all outside voices, and no outside voice, no, not even your own parents can know who you truly are, and what you're designed to be and do in this life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of cool because look, I have my belief system, or some of, you know, and I know that they're very fluid, our belief systems, but at the moment it is, you know, one of my beliefs is that we do choose to come here at a certain time on the planet, and that we do choose our parents, and we choose the path, we sort of, this sort of space and what we want to do. I mean, there's no one particular mission that we have, but I do know that we're all here on purpose. And whatever that may be for us. And I suppose it's sort of like figuring out your purpose in a way, or figuring out. I had a lovely conversation with Danielle last week, and she called it on purpose. And it's basically similar to what you're saying. It's really working out who you are and being happy with that moment to moment, instead of working towards a goal of either writing a book or making a movie, or you know, whatever it may be, creating an empire. Would you agree with that, Chris? Or?
Oh, absolutely. And being you is really it's not a goal-oriented mindset. It's not a place to get to. It's really
Okay.
like you said, a moment by moment awareness of your inner truth, and that is tested and asked of you all day long, right? Life situations, it doesn't matter where you look. It's always giving you a choice to be more authentic and aligned with your true self, or to go against that. So life is designed to make us choose, and that's really the beauty of it. Even when we choose not to, that eventually we'll feel the repercussions of that, and then it pushes us back onto our path. So it's really a wonderful design, this life.
Yeah, well, yes, yes. At some points you'd probably think it's not, but most of the time. But yeah, it is our power and our choice. And I suppose, is that sort of one of the principles? It's sort of an encompassing idea, is because choice is really consciousness, is being conscious and aware of the steps you're taking for your life on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the principles, is to recognize that there is no right or wrong. There is no reason to get hung up on something as as being right or wrong, or for you or against you, or good or bad. This duality keeps you trapped in this judging mindset, and all this judging really is a layer of noise that drowns out that inner voice, that wisdom that's there, that's always telling you what is true for you. So we get caught up in this, you know, the up and down, the roller coaster of chasing our happiness and chasing these outcomes, when really it's the moment to moment awareness of choosing to be you.
Okay, beautiful. The duality word is kind of a word that's in at the moment. The duality, the contrast, some people call it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the right or wrong, which, yeah, as you're saying, there is no right or wrong. It's really just a duality. And it's really about, I suppose, embracing that duality, knowing that there is always light and dark. There is always feeling happy and feeling sad. For we need to know the duality to sit in the present.
Yeah, in fact, if even when we are firmly entrenched in the positive, there needs to be an acceptance of the shadow side, so to speak, that is
Mm.
actually enabling us to be positive. So it's you can never come to self-realization from a place of rejection. You even the term the ego, which I don't use anywhere, in my eyes is outdated, because it
Yep.
creates this resistance within yourself. So I think it's you know, time to move beyond that. It's really about full acceptance and realizing yourself. So the term self-realization is, you know, if you dissect the word, it's realizing who you are. And all these outside voices that we grow up with, those are the blind spots that are created within us, where we're not clear on who we are, and who we're supposed to be. And so life, our journey, is sifting through that, becoming aware, shining the light of our awareness onto those blind spots, and therefore dissolving those energy knots, those blockages that are there, so that we can flow, and life can flow through us.
I'm glad that you said that, because one of the questions was, what is self-realization, and you've answered that beautifully. That the self-realization, how, and shining the light on things that are not working for us, or the knots within us that jar us or whatever. I mean, how you know, without going too much into your principles or your book, because I'm really looking forward to reading it, is how can we identify these things when they come up in our life, in our world?
Absolutely. So they come up all the time. We're just not aware that they're opportunities for us to become more self-aware. Yes. And then
Opportunity, another word. Yes.
exactly. So whenever we feel triggered, right, that's
Yep.
the access point. That's the inroad to something within us that is reacting. We wouldn't be reacting if there wasn't some knot, some energy blockage around something, and that applies to positive triggers as well, things that we like and that we crave. So the
Yeah.
craving is clinging, and the resistance is you know, pushing away, and in either case we're holding on to our feelings and our emotions, and instead of letting them come and go, which they would naturally do. And so it's getting all of that energy stuck inside of you, that builds up and that creates you know, difficulty for new emotions to come, for to accept life as it happens, and you know, not to have this need to constantly interfere and interject and cling to certain things, and resistance is clinging as well. So that's really what it's about.
I love that. I love that, because they need to flow through us. Feelings need to flow through us, regardless whether they feel great or they don't feel so great. They're part of our experience. So allowing them through is really important. Through, in my opinion, in my experience, anyway. I know that it's took me a while to accept feeling sad or feeling anger or feeling anything, and allowing them through and going, it's cool. I don't need to avoid this, or I don't need to resist it. All I need to do is allow it through. It's part of the natural part of being human, right? And knowing that, like all energy, it flows through, and with the positives, it's the same. You know, which, and I think a little while ago, this too shall pass, and a lot of people use that in a negative way. That's saying, not negative, but saying, you know, I know this might feel like a bad time, but this too shall pass. But even the good feelings, so it's about embracing all of the human feelings that you can, you know, through your human life. Do you think that's, and do you think that, because at the end of the day, there are always going to be things that happen in our life that aren't going to always feel great, like people dying or sickness or trauma, or, you know, around us. But all we can do is really just respond and choose how we respond. But that doesn't mean we'll never ever feel sad or have an energy of that coming through us. Do you
Yeah.
agree, or do you think that we can get to a place where all we're doing is being happy?
Well, that too is a great question. Well, the first part would be, yes, the letting yourself feel your emotions fully, as opposed to you know, pushing the ones away that we don't like, or clinging to the ones that we do, is that full feeling is what really deepens us, and we don't get stuck on certain things. So yeah, life, you know, emotions and feelings flowing through us is what leads to a deepening and a more fluid experience. And what happens is you get less attached to the roller coaster of the up and downs of, I like this and I don't like that. But it's almost a step back where you get anchored in the experience of things, and the happening of things, and the coming and going of things, and whether they go up or down. Yes, of course, there are pleasant feelings or not so pleasant feelings. But your happiness is not attached to them, because you're not clinging to them. And that doesn't mean you can't experience happiness and joy in the things of the physical world. It's just recognizing that they are temporary, and if they pass, it's okay. Uh, Something emerges from this fluidity of being connected to just kind of the flow of life, which is far greater than kind of the piecemeal joy and the individual, ups and the downs of what happens to, objects that we focus on.
Yeah.
And that is a much broader, that is really a connectedness to everything, to life. It is reducing the distance. The judging things as good or bad is creates distance. It creates, you're pushing things away. So, with your judging of them, and when you cease to judge them as good or bad, you move in. You become closer. You become ultimately one with life, which I think is, what you asked at the tail end. Can that happen? Maybe. In principle, yes. Whether there's something to the physical world that prevents us from achieving that state while we're in our bodies, it might be. Just a vibration of our being has to slow down to occupy this body,
Mm.
and to reach that level of that frequency of pure being without judging. Um, I don't know if we have to leave our bodies to attain that.
Okay, interesting. So, yeah, that definitely makes sense. You think so? So always, you think that there's always a little bit of judgment within us.
Yeah, and that's okay too, because
Yeah.
that's the duality, and that's the balance. It's not rejecting anything and just
No.
focusing on the happy either. It's really the full feeling of everything that exists. And
Beautiful.
yeah,
Actually, that word brings up, because judgment can have quite a heavy feeling around it. Like the collective around judgment is all about sin, judging. You're being judged. You go to court to be judged, and then you're put in jail or whatever. So it's all really. And I remember actually this word coming up a few years ago, and when I was going through, some of my own healing, attending therapy, there was a young psychologist there, probably in his 30s, out of school, I'd say, in his 30s, but he used the word judgment in a very different way for me to recognize. And it's like, no, for me, what judgment means is I'm just recognizing that if I need to jump over the puddle, I need to judge how far that's going to be. And that kind of, for me, it was very simply made a very neutral sort of charge behind that word. And I find that there's a lot of charge behind certain words within our systems that jar us or trigger us.
yes.
Yeah, and so that's how I work personally, and see it in other individuals. But judgment was a big one. So, and I just caught myself then going, judgment is bad. When a few years ago I realised it's quite neutral. Like everything,
Yes.
everything is quite neutral. It's what we put behind it.
Mhm.
So with your book, Be You, The Guide to Self-Realization, Chris, it's quite a simple, different principles that are quite simple. Are they step by step, or you can utilize different principles at different times? And second part to the question is, are you still, do you work with these principles daily
Yeah.
yourself?
Absolutely, and maybe my answer, addresses both parts of your question,
Right.
and that is really, in my own search. And just a moment ago, you mentioned vocabulary, how it affects, how receptive we are, and
Yes.
really, there is no new wisdom. It's all, ancient wisdom that has, needs to be reformulated for newer audiences, newer vocabulary. And I found in my own journey as well, is certain words create resistance in people, and so BU really targets. It's the most spiritual book without being spiritual.
Hmm.
There's no mention of universe or God, or even the word spiritual. It does not appear in there once, and that is to create something that is as broadly accessible as possible. Can't cover all the bases. I'm sure, there's still people who will feel triggered, but that's okay. There will be new, other authors and all that can cater to that. So it's really a reflection of trying to formulate things in a way that do fit into common pedestrian everyday situations. There's trying to not create a wall or resistance by through difficult or complicated vocabulary. And absolutely, so I have formulated that for myself first in my own life, for
Yes,
it to then obviously to come out in the book.
brilliant. Yeah, the simplicity of simplicity is perfection, really, for me. I like to keep things simple, but that helps the reader connect to your message without actually triggering or finding any resistance. As you said, there are going to be people that are going to be triggered regardless, but that's perfect too. But the thing is, regardless, this having a simple sort of vocabulary really assists the reader to get past all of that and just into what you really want to share and teach, which is perfect. Your book is not available online yet, but will be very soon, Chris. Is that right?
Yes, so it's currently or just about to be available for pre-order on Amazon. Um,
Cool.
and yeah, there are some delays just because of the current situation of
Hmm.
getting legalities and whatnot squared away. But yeah, it's just around the bend.
Okay, cool. So hopefully by the time this is out, and if not, just keep your eye out, and all the links will be on my page and on Chris's page. So, Chris, who inspired you? What led you to? I'm going to say spiritual path or path of awakening. Who inspired you? Was it an author, or was it a particular moment, or?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I've always had a penchant for well, there must be more. So that's been
Mhm.
a voice in me since as long as I can remember. Um, Maybe what's been different for me is that I know for a lot of people, um, the Byron Katie's or the Eckhart Tolles of the world, they talk about hitting rock bottom and that being a turning point, and I think that's probably true for most people, just because resistance that we provide to the world, it leads to suffering, and it has to
Mm,
become unbearable essentially before we turn around that ship and start to think differently.
mm,
Now, with me, it was slightly different in that I had. Notwithstanding the stresses of early childhood, I think everyone experiences stuff there, and but I just I just felt like, even though I'd set myself up pretty comfortably into my mid to late 30s, it was there had to be more, and without really searching for it, the shift really came upon me that I needed to let go of everything I had created, and really became obsessed with and again, the shift from the head, the controlling, the knowing mind, to the allowing, the beingness of allowing everything to be. And that just by itself, like a domino effect, caused many changes in my life. And um, they were difficult at the time, and I didn't know what was happening. And I just knew I had to do it, even letting go of beautiful things. Just I felt like I had to do it.
yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Well, that's good to hear that, the seeker doesn't need to go through trauma to see what is out there, although with transition and change it can be a little bit bumpy, because we're so used to certain things, and um, the human race, we're not so comfortable with change yet. We will get there, but it's the constant in our life, as we all know. Change is a surety. So the transition, but it's good to hear that you sought before trauma, or anything had to change at your life, so you sought the change before the change sought you, which is really cool. And I think that's where humanity is moving towards, is just that we are going to be seeking There doesn't have to be a huge sort of drama around hitting rock bottom anymore. And that, to me, feels like an old paradigm, like the ego. It's an old paradigm, it's old language, it's an old way of being, and we're moving into a space where we're just seeking. And you are one of these people, so that's brilliant. Which is great, and it's inspiring, and it's I have a deep hope with humanity and the way we're moving. So that's really confirmation for me today. So just before we finish up, Chris, I do usually ask guests, well, I haven't lately, but a lot of guests, I ask if you have a message, and your book is your message. But if you could just summarize, a message for the world, what would it be? If you had one message for the world and they said, this is your time, Chris, you've only got like a few minutes, what would you say? And that's the last message I have.
Yes. Well, obviously it's to be you. But at the same time, not to judge yourself or berate yourself when you catch yourself not being you, because ultimately, as we talked about, not being on your path is as important as the path itself.
Beautiful. Because that leads you back. It leads you you need to know what is not to know what is. That's brilliant. Well, thank you. Chris's book will be available on Amazon soon. It is available on your website anyway, so people can order a hard copy on your website. Your website, Chris, is www.cirak, which is CIRAK.com. And you're also available on Insta, which is Chris Cirak as well. I've got the American accent in my head, sorry, Cirak. I love your Instas, because you also have live Insta questions that you share. So, yeah, if you are on Instagram, check out Chris's page and connect, because you do the live questions, which is quite regular, which is really cool. And that's, answering questions of those people that are sending them through. I think you have an ask section on your website. And you also have events, although at the moment with COVID and stuff, they're probably still we're still waiting for those to happen. But I'm sure you'll probably do online stuff, and if anyone wants to get in contact with you, your newsletters or one-on-one. So you do one-on-ones as well, I noticed on your website. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
What are the one-on-ones, Chris?
It's kind of what we're doing right now.
Oh. Brilliant.
So, yeah. So, part of the newer generation is to have access to answers, and to have access to the people who can help you find, your answers. Not that they know them, but that they can help facilitate you discovering them within yourself. So, trying to make myself as available as I can with modern technologies, and
brilliant.
We'll see how it goes.
Brilliant, great. Well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, and I look forward to ordering your book and reading it, and having a chat with you hopefully in a month or so, just to see where we're all at, and get a bit deeper with Be You, the Guide to Self-Realization. That would be really great. I hope you can join us again. Thank you, Chris.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you, Angie. And I invite me back anytime. I'd be happy.
Yay. Okay. Thanks so much, and a pleasure. And I'll speak to you again. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Bye, Chris. Enjoy your evening over there.
Thank you, and your daytime over there.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, great.